And welcome, everybody. It is Thursday, February 26th, 2026, and this is season 5, episode 7 of Two Guys on Politics, broadcast on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 radio, as well as on YouTube at twoguysonpolitics.com. I'm Ray Hanania with my co-host, former Congressman Bill Lipinski. We're going to be talking about a number of topics. The main one is President Trump's State of the Union speech. We're going to talk about that in the first segment. And then later in the second segment, we'll talk about a couple issues he brought up, like his claim that he's ending taxes on Social Security. We'll also talk about what looks like, I don't know, are we on the verge of war with Iran, war with Cuba? I thought as Bill pointed out to me earlier, are we free of foreign entanglements? That's what he promised, but I don't think that's the case. Anyway, hang on, everybody. We're going to take a break so we can do some ads at the radio station. When we come back, we'll get into Trump's State of the Union speech. We'll be right back right after these messages. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. And the next voice you hear will be almost as good as the great Paul Harvey's voice, Mr. Ray Hanania.
I wonder how many people remember Paul Harvey, Bill. I read a number of books about him. I really admired him. He was like the Irv Kupcinet 30 years prior to Irv, wasn't he?
He was around a long time. He started on radio in 1948 in
Wow.
Chicago, WENR, and on television at the same time. And you know who his biggest booster was?
Who?
Joseph P. Kennedy.
Wow.
President John Kennedy's father, Joseph P. Kennedy.
He must have been doing stories about Joseph P. Kennedy the way I used to do stories about you as an alderman on the Southwest side.
Absolutely.
Let's fight that Archer Heights story. What really propelled me, when I was at the Southtown, I was just talking to somebody about writing at the Southtown Economist, which was Sunday and Wednesday. And then on February 24th, 1978, which was my daughter's birthday when she was born, they went daily. Bruce Sagan took the Southtown Economist and made it a daily. Actually, it wasn't. It was 6 days out of 7 days, and called it the Daily Southtown.
It's just like the Wall Street Journal, 6 out of 7.
Yeah, that's true. And it boosted up my column, the Grapevine, which really helped boost up my career in journalism.
Anyway, they used that name for a restaurant in LaGrange. Have you ever been there, the Grapevine?
LaGrange or Oak Park? Park, I think.
The one I go to is in LaGrange.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, there's one in Oak Park that I go to. I think it's called the Grapevine.
Okay.
And it's Middle East, and the one you're talking about is Middle Eastern, right?
No. It's Greek.
Oh, how could they steal that from the Arabs? Here we go. Already. We can never find any positive news to talk about, though. No happy news.
You're happy, aren't you, Ray?
Yes, I am. I'm very happy. And by the way, before we get into our topics, I was just talking about how I was at a forum for the candidates in the 7th district. Richard Boykin is running in that race, Reed Showalter, a number of candidates. There are 13 candidates. Felix Taylor is a great guy. I don't know how many people you know that are running there to succeed Danny Davis, who you served with.
I know Richard Boykin. I don't think I know anybody else there.
Yeah, well, LaShawn Ford is running in that district, and there are just so many names. I have to say that of 13 candidates, one didn't show up. The one that got all the money from AIPAC, the chief bought off. But the other 12 candidates were there, and I have to say they were all smart. Every candidate, they were all smart. But one of them brought up your name, Hoskins, the mayor of what is that, Forest View? Did I say? Was that what it was?
Forest Park, I
It,
thought you said.
Forest Park, yeah, Forest Park. He said that he was going to try to initiate a transportation revolution to expand and transportation to the people in much the same way as Bill Lipinski did in the southwest side of Chicago and with Midway Airport. And he went out of his way to credit you, and I thought, oh, that was pretty nice.
It is very nice.
Um,
Absolutely. Make sure you include that in your column next time, Ray.
if I'm going to have to do that, yeah, from Forest Park, Hoskins, Mayor Hoskins, great guy. So if you get a chance, you should call him up and tell him one of your spies was at the forum
I will.
and heard that. Then you just wanted to thank him.
Yeah,
But it's good to be good politicians like you, Bill, to be remembered like that. You know, we get out of office and sometimes they don't remember us, but your impressions that you left on transportation are well remembered. And they did do a lot. Although we never did get the Crosstown Expressway, did we?
well, no, but that wasn't mine. That was Mayor Daley's idea.
Yeah, well,
Jane,
what was,
Jane Byrne killed that. But we took that money and used that money for a lot of other things.
yes, yeah. And that was supposed to go down Cicero Avenue, right, to Midway?
Correct.
Was that what it was? Because they
Yes.
bought up a lot of those buildings. Almost they were planning for it, and then there was just too much federal money had been set aside, right?
Well, no,
And
Jane
she
Byrne
needed
just
it.
decided we didn't want it. There was a lot of opposition to it. When she ran for mayor, she came out on the side of the opponents. She won, so it wasn't
Yeah,
going to be built. I don't know if it was good or bad, but
yeah,
nevertheless, it wasn't built. But we did use that money to do many other things that improved not only the Southwest Side, but the entire city of Chicago.
yep. And I wanted to just let's shift over to President Trump's State of the Union speech. So, Trump, did you get it? I watched it on and off. I have to be honest, it was annoying. I went back and read some of what he said, but the whole speech, an hour and 40 minutes, was just so, it was like confrontational. I know tried to make himself look like he's the champion of Americanism, but I just didn't get that, feeling from some of the remarks that he made. And it just, really kind of, I thought was kind of distracting, and disturbing. And I also felt he exaggerated on so much. He did touch on topics that I really agreed with, and I'm sure you did too, but he just can't stop himself, can he? What did you think of the speech?
Well, and I watched almost all of it live. I did watch all of it, but some I had to turn away for a while. Because it got to be very boring and very repetitive. But I eventually watched the entire speech. And my initial impression was that it was a boring, insignificant, exaggerated speech by President Trump. Okay. And that it really didn't change anything.
Right.
And I had a call from my oldest grandson, Brian, and he said to me, well, the only thing of importance in the entire speech was the fact that President Trump said, in essence, are you with the Americans or are you with the
Yep.
immigrants, the illegal immigrants? And
Right.
all the Republicans stood up and cheered, being with the Americans, and the Democrats sat on their hands, saying, obviously, they must be with the illegal aliens. And you
Right.
can rest assured that that will be played in every contested congressional race throughout this country come November, because it's going to be a great, great piece for the Republicans.
Yeah. See, now I don't think that when Trump said to them, "Are you with the American people or the illegal aliens?" that he was doing it because he cared about the American people at all. He said that because he knows he can set up a distraction. Because there are a lot of people that are going to say, "Is he really with the American people?" And they can question it and challenge him because He's with the billionaire American people, all his wealthy buddies. Everything is named after him. But yeah, if I were a Democrat member of Congress, I would have sat on my hands too. I would not have given him anything. And I think it's more a reflection of Trump. But that's the problem with Trump supporters. They drink the Kool-Aid. They don't think for themselves. And I'm not knocking your nephew. He's a smart kid, but this is part of his strategy to pull these people in and make them believe that he's doing something for America, and he's not really doing anything for America. Just saying it doesn't make it so, does it?
You asked me my opinion, and I talked for a minute and a quarter, and then you went on your soapbox again,
All right,
preaching
there we
against
go.
President Trump. So getting back to what I was attempting to say earlier is that by him telling me that, I thought to myself, well, maybe I misjudged this speech. Maybe there really was something significant, important in it. So I was thinking this over. I was reflecting upon it, and I listened to the station on 820, the Progressive Democratic
Right,
station.
right.
Their principal guy is a guy by the name of Tom Hartman
Hmm.
from Portland, Oregon.
Who I
Uh,
know very well. Good
do you
guy.
know him very well?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Oh,
used to be on his radio show a lot.
oh, I'll have to talk to you about that. He certainly is a progressive Democrat.
Yes, yes, he is.
Now, his position was that the Democrats lost a great deal by sitting on their hands. And he thought that Trump staged a fantastic display of the Republicans being with Americans and the Democrats, being with the illegal aliens. Now, this guy is the most progressive Democrat
Right.
I frankly hear at all. Okay. And he thought Trump did a great job for himself and for the Republicans. He was very upset. He felt that the Democrats should have done something to counteract it. They did nothing. In fact, they even made it worse by a couple of them shouting out that Trump was a murderer. Trump is a murderer. Okay. I mean, he was devastated by the lack of what the Democrats did to respond to what Trump had to say. So I thought to myself, oh my God, if this guy, Tom Hartman, this very progressive Democrat, is talking like this, I must have missed something. So I'm thinking to myself, well, Trump tells a lot of things which you and I agree, and most people agree, they're lies. They have no basic in truth whatsoever. But he believes if he tells them often enough and loud enough, some people will believe it. So, but Tom Hartman just wrote that out. That was in material. What was important was the show he put on, recognizing two congressional medal honors, presenting a Medal of Freedom, talking about these poor American citizens who were attacked by illegal aliens. It was the Americans and Trump against the Democrats and the illegal aliens. So I'm thinking to myself, well, if Tom Hartman believes that, you know, I guess Trump did
Well,
a heck of a job. Now,
well, I like Tom
today,
Hartman. He's a great guy.
well, that's your opinion, but let me finish, please.
I am. I'm going.
Now, today, I read Karl Rove. You know who Karl Rove is?
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
I think he's one of
But
the best political minds around. You may not agree with him, but he's a very good political mind. He talked about the same thing, about the show that Trump put on as far as Americanism and how the Republicans are with the Americans and the Democrats are with those evil, murdering foreigners that Joe Biden led into this country by the billions. Okay. And Karl Rove says, that was really great for energizing the base of Trump's support. But the important voters are the swing voters. And he didn't think the swing voters were impressed with that show whatsoever. So he really didn't believe that it changed the dynamics of the November election at all. Yes, the hardcore supporters of Trump will be there for him, but the swing voters are still going to be with the Democrats primarily because of Trump's obnoxious personality. Even though there may be a number of issues they agree with him on, they cannot get past his reprehensible character. So I'm back to now wondering, I don't know what happened in that speech. I don't know if Trump won, Trump lost, or if it's neutral. I have to continue to study it. But I'll tell you, it was long, it was tedious, it was tiresome, it was boring, other than the highlights when he was showing everybody what a great American he was and what great Americans the Republicans were. Now I turn the platform back to you.
Did I not interrupt you, Bill? I don't want to interrupt
I
you.
appreciate that for a change, Ray, very much.
For a change. Hey, listen, let me ask you a question. No president at a State of the Union has ever showcased a silver award winner or gold medal, silver medal winner, hero, or that was the first time, right? No,
Yeah.
that wasn't
No,
the
no,
first time.
there were other times, but not
Every
he must have showcased about 10 different individuals. And of course, another highlight when he had the great U.S. hockey team that
right.
defeated our 51st state, Canada. You know,
Right. But past presidents have done that when athletes
yes,
have
they
done
have.
great things. They always bring them to the thing. But I think he overdid it because Trump is using us and using these things to make himself look better. And when the hockey team was there, I saw the Democrats stand up and applaud him. When that guy that was sick, there were a couple of people that he talked about, and it was hard to really focus on him because of the way Trump makes everything about himself. He distracts from the people he brings up to honor and all that stuff. So when he did do that, they stood up, they acknowledged him. But why should they stand up and celebrate his, exaggerations and in many cases lies? I wouldn't. And cat calls, that's not unusual, is it? We've seen Republicans do that, the past presidents. The guy that the people that did it to Obama, if you remember when he was president, they interrupted his State of the Union speech to do the same thing. And the Republicans were saying that Obama was being petty. And it wasn't really Obama, but Democrats were being petty for pointing that out. So there was nothing unusual about that, I think, other than Trump going on forever about himself and exaggerating all his achievements, because very few of those achievements I agree with. Some of his goals I do agree with, like cracking down on immigration, but it isn't as great as he makes it sound.
Well, listen, your buddy Tom Hartman uh,
Hey,
disagrees with you, and he is the leader of the progressive Democrats in this country, as far as I am concerned.
well, thank God that we have somebody that's willing to move away from the extreme end and come to the center. Who on the right does that? Can you name one person on the far right that is doing the same thing as Hartman, to move into the center and say something? I'm sure Tom Hartman didn't say Trump was the best president in the world, but he did say
Oh,
what you and I both agree, that the Democrats have a problem and Trump is there because of their failure to lead. But don't you think, Bill, that this election isn't going to be about who's better? It's going to be more about whether you like or hate Trump.
well, I think that's true, but it's not only about do you like or hate Trump, it's also about do you like or dislike the Democrats? Okay. You know, and I know that all the Democrats have been doing is campaigning against Trump. And that's
Right.
rather easy because he only has a 36% approval rating in this country. Now,
Boy,
I've
that
never
went
voted
up.
for
That
him.
went up
I
from a
never
few
will
weeks.
vote for him. I want to see the Democrats win the primary. Excuse me, win the midterm election because I want them to be a buffer against
Right.
Trump and so many of his wild, crazy ideas. But Trump is a chameleon. You know, he called the members of the Supreme Court that voted against him. They were taking money from foreign people. They were influenced by foreign governments. They were a bunch of jerks. You know, he walks in last night. He walks up to all of them, shakes their hands, smiles at them, and during the course of his speech, he says, well, they made a decision. I don't agree with it, but we're going to move on. I mean, he's just amazing how he can change his spots so quickly. I admire him for that. It makes a hell of a good politician by changing back and forth. But I'm hoping and praying that people finally realize that that's not the kind of leader you want to have.
Yeah, I think that Trump was full of garbage. I think that the way he personalized everything to, it's like, and again, I'm not criticizing you, but you make it sound like the Democrats sat on their hands because they wanted to sit on their hands. I think it's the Democrats sat on their hands because out of the box, he started attacking individual Democrats like that was the concern. This is the State of the Union speech, not Republican leaders' war on the opposition party, which is basically what he did. He went after so many Democrats in that speech. So if he had gone after me, I would have responded to him. I would have booed. I would have yelled at him too. And I think that that's what he did. Some of the stupid stuff he said was just ridiculous. I got to be honest. I'm embarrassed by that speech as an American, and it just makes me more determined to see that we do. Our only solution is to see a balance that puts everything in check because we do not have a good Democratic Party that can provide the alternative great leadership that we need. It's just not there. So we do have a big problem, in fairness, on both sides. And I wonder, would we have a Democratic version of Trump on the Democratic side if they were to take over? I'm not sure who that would be.
I don't know who it would be either, but Ray, I said I want to see the Democrats win at least the House
Yes.
in
Yeah.
November. That's my position. But
Yes.
I'm quoting Tom Hartman, frankly, the greatest progressive Democrat I know. And he thought the Democrats made a terrible, terrible mistake in the way they handled the situation on that Republican rally that they held, in the Capitol. It was no State of the Union. It was a Republican rally, and it was a rally to attack the Democrats. And Tom Hartman thought that Trump and the Republicans did a fantastic job, and the Democrats did not know how to respond. On the other hand, Karl Rove, one of the greatest political strategists that the Republicans have ever had, thought all he did was reinforce his base. So there certainly is a wide difference of opinion. And I don't care what the opinion is by anybody. I just hope and pray that those Democrats win control of at least the House to be a buffer for Trump for the rest of his term in office.
You think Karl Rove is better than Roger Ailes, the founder of Fox News,
Yes, I
who
do.
was a
Yes, I do.
brilliant Republican strategist too, who had many flaws though.
Well,
So, but Rove,
yeah, he could be very rude and crude at times, where Karl Rove was always very, very smooth. I mean, he took George Bush II, who really was a nice man, but
right?
I spent time with him flying back and forth when I was trying to get him to do several things on transportation. Very nice guy, but he was far from being a smart person. And Karl Rove built him up well enough that he won 2 terms for president of the United States. You'd like to have a beer with Bush II, but you really didn't want to discuss anything of significance with him because you'd talk to him for a couple of minutes and he'd start telling you about when he was president of the Texas Rangers baseball team. Or he'd tell you something about on his ranch back in Texas when he had this horse that was, tough to get to ride and so forth. I mean, he was not an intellectual. Nice guy, but not an intellectual. On the other hand, Barack Obama, yeah, he was a nice guy too, and he was an intellectual.
Yeah. Well, I listen. There were one of the things that Trump said during his speech was that, hey, I brought down the price of gasoline. I brought down the price of prescriptions. I brought down this, this, and this. And then he said, oh, gasoline is $1.20. And I'm thinking, where the hell are you? I just filled up my tank and it was $3.59. How can you claim you did that? then he talked about the stock market. It was the best stock market ever in the history of the world, is almost what he said. But in truth, and he made it sound like it benefits all the American people. But I was reading data, and again, the richest 10% of families in America own 87% of all the stock market wealth. He has been trying to say that
Who
his
said it?
wealth,
Where did you read that? In Tom Hartman's column?
no, no, just news reports. But
Okay.
and I'm willing to say maybe the numbers may be exaggerated, whatever. But the point is that the stock market doesn't benefit the majority of people in this country. It benefits a small group of wealthy people who have the money to invest in the stock market, and it does help those people who are in pensions. They get their 2-3% increase, every year if the stock market is doing well. But that's not a great measure of the health of our economy. Job growth, he talked about job growth, but the truth is that it's only been up from 4% a year ago. He makes it sound like it's been great, but that's still relative. The job market dropped so much because of COVID. So any increase is going to look good, but it's still never to the point of where it was as a result of COVID. So I think Trump, he had a great opportunity, Bill, to do something different. And this, especially with cracking down on illegal immigrants, but turning ICE and the Department of Homeland Security into an assault team, a military assault team to do that, I think hurt the movement and has turned away so many people. It's become the big issue, in
Well,
this
there's no
election.
question about it. When I started out deporting people, 80% of the Americans agreed with him. They thought
Yes,
it was a great thing to do. Now 20% of Americans agree with him. I mean,
right.
that's ludicrous. That's ridiculous. And it's all because of the way the ICE handled the situation. And I can't understand why Trump, for once in his life, wouldn't be smart enough to say, listen, there were some things wrong in Minneapolis with
Right.
ICE, but we've corrected that. We're back doing the right job. He doesn't say that. Well, you know, he
Yeah.
exaggerates. He never apologizes. There's some places that he can be very, very good, but it's all a charade on his part. I don't like him. I never will like him. And I hope and pray the Democrats can block him.
Yeah, and then one last thing, and then we could take a break, though, Bill,
Thank
is
God.
his, well, we're not going to get away from all he's done. His claim that he's done more to give tax breaks to the American people, the nonpartisan, I was just reading something from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says the bulk of the tax savings that Trump has proposed will go to the wealthiest Americans. In other words, he's just kind of deceitful. And yeah, he provides tax breaks, but not for you and me. It's for the wealthy people, even wealthier than you and me are. So he says that, and the Congressional Budget Office says the average American may see a income savings of maybe $500 to $1,000 a year, and those are for people making under $60,000, at which the average is, which is right around the average. We're going to talk about Social Security in the next segment, but he exaggerated all that. This money that he's giving away is almost like he's trying to buy the American people to not abandon him and the Republican Party. Let me ask you, Bill, do you think when you have to, yes or no, I guess, or maybe, when you look at everything he said and done, do you think it's going to change the attitude of the American people when it comes to election time this summer leading up to November?
My position at this time in this place is no, it's not going to
Okay.
change. I still believe the Democrats recapture the House of
Yeah.
Representatives. I think that he may have blunted the Democrats capturing the U.S. Senate by rallying his shock troops to make sure they get out and vote in the general election because of the way he went after the Democrats in the State of the Union message. But I want to close by saying the Wall Street Journal listed 18 things that Trump claimed he and the Republicans did. Each and every one of them, according to the Wall Street Journal, was an exaggeration or an out and out lie. That's my final word on the
So,
situation.
so do you think the Wall Street Journal and Tom Hartman both bumped heads and lost sanity or something? Because the Wall Street Journal has been a big supporter of his and very conservative,
No
and Tom
question about
Hartman was always a critic. They must have hit each other's heads and gone nuts. So that's possible, huh?
I think that Tom Hartman went off the deep end when he was a volunteer. What was that? The Peace Corps. He worked in the Peace Corps, and I think he worked in some communist country. And I think he got to believe so much in, Karl Marx. But
Well,
we could talk about Tom Hartman on another show sometime. I'm
yes, we should.
shocked to find out that you and him were buddies.
Oh
Thank
yeah, no.
you
I
for finding out,
appeared
though.
on his show a lot. I really like him. Don't get me wrong. I like him. I didn't hear that report that you were talking about, and I think he was trying not so much to praise Trump, but to really bring up the criticism of the Democrats, which I believe exists there. But in politics, a lot of people don't vote against Trump because they think the Democrats are great. They vote against Trump because they think Trump is hurt their bottom line when it comes to the economy. Let's take a break, Bill, and when we come back, we can talk a little bit about Social Security. How about that?
Okay,
And a
doke.
couple other issues. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back right after these messages. And welcome back, everybody. I had to relax and everything after that beating that Bill Lipinski gave me in the first. Actually, it was actually a good exchange, Bill. I think we couldn't find anything positive news stories, but we did present some balance. I think in
I
that
think so.
last segment about politics, and balance is something that we both want, but we don't often see. But one of the big issues that I separated it from the State of the Union, the President's State of the Union address, is the issue of Social Security. And I did a real close, detailed study of what he was proposing. And I don't know if you've looked at it very carefully, but let's talk about that. Do you have confidence in him when he says that he removed the tax? He's ending the taxes on Social Security.
No, I do not have any confidence in that.
And I wonder how many people in the public believe him when he says that, because the truth is he didn't eliminate the taxes on Social Security. He just took a chunk of money and said, I'm going to give you this money to offset some of those taxes, and then put all these qualifiers on it. He said he's going to give everybody who's 65 and older $6,000. Now, you
When do
collect
we get this?
social, pardon me?
When do we get this?
Well, that's the thing. When he says you'll see that in this next filing of your income taxes, but
Oh, okay.
I understood Social Security doesn't start at 65; it starts at 62. So everybody between the age of 62 and 65, they're not going to get any benefits from this. This is just people 65 and older who are collecting Social Security. And it was an interesting thing that I discovered that he didn't talk about. He bases that $6,000 on your income if you make less than 150,000 a year, up to 250,000, which if you make over 250,000, you won't get that $6,000 or a prorated version. But what he does is very sneaky. So let's say you make $150,000, your average gross income after deductions is 150,000. He doesn't recognize all those deductions, and they put that back in to your income. A lot of the deductions that you might take, that a lot of Americans take to reduce their average gross income, go back into the calculation. So he's basically shifting the deduction savings, putting it back, and then claiming in his $6,000 that money is going to be it's the equivalent of the half of it is the equivalent of the deductions you're already going to get. He's eliminated the deductions to get that $6,000. Does that make sense? I mean, it's a complicated process.
No, no, it does not make sense. But are you telling me that he's putting those exemptions back in to
Yes.
reduce, to increase the income of people so they don't get the $6,000?
Yes.
It looks to me like he's just looking out for the poor people. He wants to make sure that they get more of the reduction in their Social Security tax.
Well, but he cut them out. They don't qualify.
Why don't
They
they
don't.
qualify?
Well, if you're because if you it is the poorest and the wealthiest that are going to benefit from this. But the problem is, it's not a matter of whether you're giving me
So he
money. I
cuts out the
mean,
middle class, is what
I
you're
think
telling me.
so. Yeah, I think so because Bill, if you want to give me $6,000 as the president, I'm going to take it. I'm not going to say no. If you're going to give me 1,000, remember he said he was going to give us all $2,000. I
Yes.
haven't seen any of that. What he did was what every other president has done. They increase the deduction on you as a filer, how much you get to deduct on your income taxes. I think it's as an individual or a family, it's like $15,000. So it went up from I think 12 or 13,000 to 15,000. That's the $2,000 he said he gave us. Now, I was expecting money. I was expecting 2,000. I didn't get that. We're not going to get that. And the thing about Social Security is he keeps saying he eliminated the tax. The truth is, if you work, and there are a lot of seniors who still work. I was reading a statistic where it's as many as 40 to 50% of seniors over 65 are still working because they want to be, part of
Well,
our
you're still
society.
working. I'm still
Yeah.
working. So
Yes.
we're two of those people.
Yeah, so it's I want the tax on just the Social Security that I worked hard for and invested and paid. Remember, they took it out of every paycheck since the age of I started working at 14. They took that money and they put it in an account which is supposed to make money so that they could then return it to me. And now they're going to return. Now they return it to you and me, but they take taxes off of it. It's almost like a penalty. It just doesn't seem right.
Well,
And he's trying to make people think that he did address that, but he really didn't.
let me tell you, uh, the year I went to Congress, the law changed as far as our retirement salary from Congress and our Social Security. Whatever I get in Social Security is deducted from my federal retirement.
Right.
Uh,
Because you were a federal employee, right? So
yeah. Now,
Social Security applies to you differently, right?
if I had gotten there one term earlier, I'd get my full Social Security and my full
Wow.
federal. So that probably cost me about $22,000 for this coming year.
Who was the damn president that did that to you? I want to know. We're going
It
to
was
get that
one of the
guy,
greatest presidents in the history of the world,
Ronald Reagan.
Wilson Reagan.
Yeah,
And
isn't he? I was
the
going to say,
first,
isn't he the one who came up with this whole Social Security restrictions and changes that he put in place?
oh, he saved Social Security, him and the tipper. And they also upped the age that you could work until at least 67 and not take your Social Security, which helped the overall Social Security lockbox, supposedly.
Right. Yeah, I believe now I'm in a different category than you.
Yes.
I worked outside of government, federal government. So, and I put the money, they took the money out of my check as a tax, put it into the Social Security Trust Fund. And they've been
Well, they
doing
did
it
the same
every
thing.
year.
They did the same thing with mine.
Yes. And then they came in and decided that you didn't deserve it because you were a federal employee, correct? Or a
Well,
congressional.
whatever I get on Social Security is deducted from my federal pension. So say I was getting $100,000 a year retirement and I'm getting $20,000 from Social Security. Okay, I only get 80,000. I get my
Right.
Social Security, but I only get 80,000 of my federal pension. When if they didn't deduct the Social Security, I'd be getting 100,000. But let's get away from talking about me. I was
Yeah.
just giving an example
Yeah.
of what goes
No,
on
no,
with
but
Social
that's a
Security.
good explanation for people to understand that. But let's get back to the positive approach to Trump that we've been taking.
Yes, go
He
right ahead.
said he said that he said I eliminated the tax on Social Security. That's what he said. But the truth is he didn't. To me, that is a most offensive lie because there are so many seniors that rely on Social Security. Now, what he did come up with, he could have just said, I'm not going to eliminate the tax, but I'm going to offer money to those people who pay the most in Social Security as a way to compensate them. He could have said that. Why wouldn't he just say that? Why wouldn't he just be honest? Because I think he lies to benefit himself, and the lie is much more beneficial than saying, "Here's a handout," to make it a little bit easier for you.
Well, he doesn't believe in the phrase, honesty is the best policy. He doesn't
That's
believe in that
true.
at all. But I'll tell
That's
you,
true.
there's a
Yeah.
worse lie than that he is going to abolish the income tax because the tariffs are going to bring in so
Oh
much,
yeah.
we will not need the income tax. Well, I'll tell you, if you buy that, you know, well,
Here's a
I don't know what
bridge.
you are, but please, please, people, don't buy that. The federal income tax is going no place. There's no way that tariffs, which the Supreme Court is probably going to strike down anyway, is going to ever replace the income tax. It's not going to happen. That to me is the biggest lie that I know of that he is told.
Yeah. Now I know that this is tax season and everybody's going to be filing their taxes. If they haven't already done so, they'll do it April 15th. There will be some people that will see some income and they're going to be thinking, oh, look, this Trump, he came through, he delivered. But the majority of people are not going to get the amount of money they think they're going to get. And I just think that this idea that he's doing us a favor is all political spin. He's doing it because he is worried, as you and I have both pointed out. I believe, and I think you believe too, that the Democrats are going to win control of the House, and he's doing everything he can possibly do to change that, not by taking good actions, but by exaggerating and lying, believing that there's so much confusion out there anyway that maybe not everybody's going to recognize that lie until it's too late.
Ray, can you hold it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, hold.
Yeah, Bill. So it's, I think there are a lot of questions about his promises to the American people about how he's helping us. I don't think the economy is doing as well as he claims it is. I don't think the benefits we'll get are for everybody. There are going to be some people that are going to say, "Wow, I did really well," and there is a group of people that will benefit. But I think the majority of people are going to be far more disappointed. And I think lying hurts him more than being honest. Because a lot wouldn't isn't it a better strategy if there's a problem to say, hey, here's the problem. I'm working hard to address it. We haven't overcome it yet, but we're struggling to do it and we're going to do it. And I need your help. Isn't that a better strategy to do that than to say, I'm saving you $20 million
Yeah,
each
but
person?
Ray, that would have to, he would have to admit there, that he's not perfect. And he can't possibly do that. That's impossible. He cannot
That's
make a
true.
mistake. He cannot admit he's not perfect, and he cannot apologize for anything. That's his personality. That's the way he is. That's the way
Yeah.
he's always been. That's the way he's always going to be. Some people can follow that. I can't follow that.
Yeah, I can't either. All right. Well, listen, we had a couple other topics. I mean, the man who has ended 8 wars um, hasn't really ended. I think there was one war that he did actually end, which was out in which a war nobody ever even heard of. Might have been in the Congo and in Africa that was going on that didn't even make headlines. He helped negotiate a truce there. But it looks like we're going to go to war with Iran. Half our naval fleet is near Iran right now. And with the violence taking place around Florida with Cuba, that's kind of concerning. What do you think is going to happen with what did you say earlier that he promised us to free us from foreign
Oh, he would
entanglements?
not. He would not get into any in. Oh
En-
God.
Entanglements. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Foreign entanglements. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets
What
us
is
in.
it?
We're in Europe. We're in Africa. We're in South America. It's incredible. Yeah.
It's I think he is Mr. Entanglements, Mr. Foreign Entanglements. But Iran, I mean, I don't understand what the threat is to us as Americans from Iran. What's the real threat? You know,
Well, the real threat isn't to us, but it's to Israel and maybe some Arab countries that Iran doesn't like. But let me say one thing right off the bat. I read today in the Wall Street Journal that General Raisin Kane, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has asked several times, what is our purpose? What is our strategy in Iran? Okay, that's the number one
right,
military man in the
right.
country. And he doesn't know what we are about to
All
do
right, now I
in
feel
Iran.
even worse, Bill. Now I even feel worse. Oh
The
my God.
admiral that would be in charge of the campaign has not been communicated with any information whatsoever. And here we are, right next to the final day for a deadline where if we don't get a deal done, we're going to invade or we're going to attack in some way, shape, or form in our military. You know, we can complain that we, the American people, don't know what we're doing there, but our military doesn't know what we're doing there. That's absolutely disgusting to me. And I believe it's true. I don't think the Wall Street Journal would print something like that if it wasn't true.
Yeah, and I think that you mentioned that Iran has been a foe of many Arab countries, especially a lot of our allies. But over the past few months, Iran and the Arab countries have been getting closer together because they're concerned about what President Trump is trying to do in Iran. They do not want to see a war break out in that region. Even though Iran is in Persia, it's adjacent to the Middle East and the Arab world. And whatever happens in Iran is going to spill over into those countries, especially this idea of yeah, I don't know. I thought we took out Iran. If you remember that when Trump bragged about how he took out Iran's nuclear capabilities,
Total success.
yeah, total success. Now all of a sudden, what, a month, 2 months later, we're back. They developed a nuclear bomb in 2 months. What? It boggles the mind. And is he reading polling that says, hey, the people don't like Iran. Let's make Iran the boogeyman and use that. Maybe that'll help get more votes for us in November. Because that's what I think he's doing.
Well, he's going to have to do something. I mean, if you want to, that is an awfully big country. You know,
Yes,
are we going to invade that country? I'm sure we can invade it. I'm sure we can win the war, but I don't know how we really pacify it. And who's going to govern it after we get rid of the Ayatollah? Is there any real opposition? The only opposition I know of that has any kind of standing is the Shah's son. How many
right,
people want the Shah's son back running Iran?
right.
Who's
And
running Venezuela since we took out the president over there? I know at one time Trump said he was the president of Venezuela, but I don't hear him even talk about that much anymore. I mean, he's focusing Iran, but he seems to be the only person that knows what we're going to do there.
nobody seems to be looking at long term. Let's just say we attack Iran and take out their government. what do we do with Iran? What do we do? Are we responsible now to fund it, to finance it, to rebuild it? Are the American taxpayers, which would pay for the invasion? You know, an invasion isn't cheap. That's a big army, and every day the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars are ticking away in costs to put our fleet in that area of Iran, and the soldiers that are being readied, to invade it. What happens to us after we do that? I'm still worried about Venezuela. It sounds like, yeah, everything is going well, but we haven't really seen the repercussions of what took place in Venezuela in terms of what people might do to us. The backlash from the people that are angry with what they did, they've gone into hiding, but that doesn't mean they're going to go away. They're going to regroup. So it concerns me. And then we started something in Cuba, right?
I don't know if we
Marco
start
Rubio.
or if the Cubans by mistake might have, but the Cubans certainly have given us an excuse, okay, for invading Cuba now. They killed 4 American citizens. Has that been verified? If it has, we have no choice but to go in there and occupy all of Cuba.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure what the circumstances are. They shot at a boat, and it turned out that they were Americans. But what was the boat doing? Where was it going? I just think that this is it can't be a coincidence that this happened when Marco Rubio, a far right wing, Cuban, who comes from an immigrant family that escaped Cuba, under Castro. And even before Castro, it was one of the most corrupt countries. The mob actually settled in Cuba before Castro came in because the government of Cuba wanted to work with the mob, the U.S. mafia. They were building all kinds of casinos for the mob in Cuba when Castro took over. So it's the sad thing, though. We go from one bad situation to another bad government. Iran was like that. The Shah of Iran was the worst. He murdered millions of people. His Savak killed them, because they were dissidents. And then that provoked this craziness from these religious leaders called the Ayatollahs who took over Iran. I think they're going to do the same thing in Cuba, and that's too close to home. That really worries me.
Well, we'll make Cuba the 52nd state.
Yeah, we'll just take over. We'll take out whoever the leader is, and then we'll move on to something else and
And
hope that
Marco can
everything will
go
be
down there.
better.
He can be the governor of Cuba after we take over, and then he can run for president.
Yeah. All right, Phil. Listen, I think we've really depressed our listeners more than enough at this point in our
Well,
50 minutes of discussion and intro and
and
everything.
I would
But
simply like to say that
yes,
we still live in the greatest country in the history of the world. And in spite of the president at the present time, I think we will survive and we will continue to be the greatest nation in the history of the world.
and that's probably because there are many good leaders who are out there whose faces we haven't seen pop up over, the horizon yet. I'm still waiting for some great leader to stand up and resolve all this polarization and conflict. And I agree with you. Just because we criticize the government doesn't mean we criticize the country. The country is great. It's founded on a great foundation. Um, but governments have a tendency to destroy everything. Bill, thank you. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics.
We'll see you later, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again. Bye bye.